Hi, my name's Daniele Andreone. I'm 24 years old, and this is my audition tape for the Bachelor of Performing Arts here at WAAPA. This year I've been engaged in the Diploma of Acting here at WAAPA. It's been my first time ever engaging in any sort of formal actor training. Before this, I was living down in Bustleton and spent a few years doing some stuff at the Bustleton Repertory Club, a little community theatre down there. It was mainly a lot of pantomimes and comedic stuff and one act plays. The reason I want to apply for the BPA is because this year I feel like I've learnt a lot about the craft that I had never really ever considered before. So it's been quite eye opening. But now I feel like I want to sort of broaden my skills a little bit, and I really want to learn a lot more about the sort of writing, directing, and dramaturgical aspects of everything, not just the acting side. This year, we had the opportunity to do a creative development project week where we split into smaller groups and we had the opportunity to devise some of our own work. So the performances went for about 20 minutes, and I really just liked the aspect of being able to get into a smaller group with other people, and everyone can sort of share their ideas, and from that you sort of make something that you probably wouldn't have been able to make on your own. Everyone's sort of contributing little bits and pieces, and then it kind of feels like something new is born from like the efforts of more than one creative mind kind of thing. So we spent a lot of time working in our performance with lighting and shadow work. So our only light source was just a torch that we would pass around to highlight different aspects of the space and the performance. And we did a bit of sort of shadow play where we were like making shadow puppets up with our hands up on the wall. And I feel like through that, it kind of felt like I got a bit of everything. So I was still able to perform. I was still able to perform with other people and to be able to play with them and play off them. But it was now a collaborative, creative experience where we were making something entirely unique as a group, something that was sort of special to us. I have a lot of love for abstract storytelling, telling stories that have a certain lineage to them, kind of a thing. So whether that's telling stories from history, being able to, make sure we learn the lessons from history, so as history doesn't repeat itself. And I feel like with the sort of with live performances and stage and theatre, I feel like it's one of the few things where you can really get those messages across, those sort of abstract in a sort of abstract kind of a way. Also this year we've spent a lot of time thinking about how we endow certain aspects of a performance or objects in a performance with significance, as well as how to not inadvertently do that. So to be very careful of where you're placing your attention and your energy and your focus so that the story and the focus is led in the correct manner. I recently, this year, I went to see the second year BPA generator performance, and I feel like it really highlighted a lot of those things for me, and really sort of just sparked a bit more love for those things. And what I mean by that is with firstly, with endowing certain things with significance during the performance. There were a lot of people carrying around suitcases and briefcases, these sort of very formal looking business type people. And in different parts of the performance, they did different things with these briefcases, such as at one point, there were a bunch of people that were sitting on these cases, and they were clutching these cases and being very protective and sort of eyeing the people around them, each person sort of protecting their own case. And I was sort of sitting there, and I sort of thought, wow, I'm really getting the idea that, these things are literally someone's livelihood. It's their whole life in this suitcase or briefcase, and they were just putting so much energy and importance on these things. There was another point where I think they piled up some of the cases, and someone jumped on top of them, and they were standing there, and they were just sort of just elevated by these cases. I guess for me it was sort of like, wow, you're literally taking your own livelihood, and perhaps even the livelihood of others, to sort of bring yourself up higher. And I believe a bit later on, at another point, they got all the cases, and all the briefcases, all the suitcases, and they just piled them up in the middle of the space, and people were sort of just gathered around them, and there were just all these points where they were just endowing such importance and significance to these cases, which I guess really helped for what I sort of got as the theme of everything, this sort of business-like world where we all literally putting all our possessions and our time and our energy and our effort into these cases, our whole sort of business and our livelihood. It also really highlighted the sort of I guess, lineage aspect of performances that I spoke about earlier. There were multiple times in the performance where someone would come out and they were talking about the fire in the sky, and the day the sky fell down, and they would make mention of, I heard my grandfather used to tell me the story of the day the sky fell down, and for me, I got the picture of I guess the housing crash in the early 2000s in the States, and I guess I was sort of just sitting there, and I was like, wow, this is what I mean in that it's this kind of performance where history is repeating itself, and we're getting to see whether we have learnt the lessons from history or not, which is, like I said before, I feel like sort of stage and theatre and live performances can really get those things across in an abstract way, which I really enjoy. The other thing as well for me that kind of stood out about the performance, as I mentioned before, this year we've been learning a lot about being very particular about the space in which a performance happens, especially when we were doing our own sort of creative development project and making our own devised work. We were encouraged to be very mindful and select of where we actually perform these pieces. So with the generator performance being in the Spiegel tent, I really like the Spiegel tent as a space. We had the opportunity to perform in it earlier this year when we did our performance of Love and Information, and there was just something about having the audience being able to sit around in a circle and things are able to happen in the middle of the space where everyone can see it, and perhaps things would happen outside, like around on the booths and stuff, so sort of the audience is almost sort of there in the middle. We had a similar sort of setup for Love and Information, but something that really got me was the fact that it's not too hard to hear things that are happening outside the Spiegel tent. And because with Love and Information, it was a show about, you're looking into different aspects of people's lives. One of our performances took place as the kids at the school across the road were just coming out of school. So, we had the performance going on and you could hear people outside the space. And I guess what I mean is I'm very interested in that aspect of, okay, how does different aspects of the space outside of the actual performance itself, how does it add to that, and what sort of energy does it bring along with it? So in the generator performance in the Spiegel 10, there was one point in particular, I guess because of the nature of the Spiegel tent having the sort of for want of a better phrase, or the sort of like flappy bits that make up the top of it. In the generator, there was a point where this guy came out and he was calling for his mom, and then the mom comes out and she's looking quite distraught, and then the dad comes out, and so the dad and the son are asking the mom, "Oh, what's wrong, and it's sort of building. And at that point there was a gust of wind outside, and all the sort of flappy bits were sort of like flapping around as they were saying, what's wrong, and the wind's picking up, and then she just lets out this scream. And for me it was just like a wow sort of moment, because it was just such a, like, you can't plan for that, you just sort of have to be aware of the nature of the space, and maybe there is a way that you can sort of think about that, like how is this particular space potentially going to create those spontaneous moments that might not happen otherwise. So I feel like this year, taking all this into account, it's made me very keen to be able to get the skills that I would like to have to be able to create my own work, to be very careful and aware of all these different aspects, like space and putting significance on certain things, and how can I get better at that, as well as being able to be more collaborative with other people. As I mentioned before, I really enjoyed when we got to work in a group to be able to devise something all together, which is why I think, with all this being said, is why I'm very interested in the BPA, because it seems like it would give me the opportunity to be able to hone those skills and learn more of those skills to be able to create stuff, whether that be solo or in a group, how to actually craft a story, how to give things certain significance. For my monologue, I've chosen one of the contemporary monologues from the WAAPA audition list. So I'm going to be playing Frankie from Alive the Mind, and I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Look, I don't know why it is, but no one around here will try to make any effort to get me out of here. How come that is? My brother, I've got a brother with a real short fuse. He starts getting these really weird ideas in his head. It doesn't take much to tip him over the edge. Now, I have been here way too long, way past the point I was meant to get back, and now he is going to start getting the wrong idea about me and your daughter. I mean, your daughter is his wife. You know that, don't you? I mean, I suppose you know that, but it's kind of hard to tell if anybody around here knows anything about anybody else, like her, for instance. Your daughter, she's been getting very strange with me, very strange. Like, she started talking to me like I was him. Like I was my brother. To her, I mean, like, she thought that I was him and not me. Your daughter, Beth, like, I don't even know if she knows who I am anymore, but she thinks that her brother, and you, in fact, even you, she includes you in all this too, she thinks that her brother and you, your son and you, are somehow responsible for taking her brain out, for removing her brain, and meanwhile, I am stuck here. I am trying to get back home, and no one is making any effort to try and help me. If I die on you here, if I die, you're gonna be in big trouble, mister. You and everyone else in this family.